Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming their excellencies, heads of state and government. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. You may take your seats. My colleagues from the media, if you may kindly please clear the front of stage so that we may proceed with our program. Thank you very much. I do appreciate it. Thank you very much, colleagues from the media. If you may please clear front of stage. Your Excellency Ibrahim Boubacar Keita, President of the Republic of Mali, Your Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, President of the Republic of Kenya, Your Excellency Paul Kagame, President of the Republic of Rwanda, honorable ministers from the range of different African countries represented here this morning, members of the diplomatic corps, heads of international organizations, captains of industry representing the private sector, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol has been observed. Welcome to the 5th edition of the Transform Africa Summit under the theme, Boosting Africa's Digital Economy. Once again, my name is Nozi Pombandra, and it is my distinct pleasure and my distinct honor to serve you as your master of ceremony and your panel moderator this morning. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we all know that the Transform Africa Summit is a true expression of what is possible when global and regional leaders from government, from business, from international organizations come together with the deliberate intent to collaborate around finding new ways of shaping, new ways of accelerating, and new ways of sustaining Africa's ongoing digital revolution. And so, to kick us off and to begin this morning's session, I'd like to invite to the podium on the stage our first two speakers who will give a joint opening remark. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for the Honorable Paula Ingabire, Rwanda's Minister of ICT and Innovation, joined by Mr. Lassina Kone, the Director General for the Smart Africa Secretariat, and together they will deliver the opening remarks.
Son Excellence Ibrahim Boubacar Keita, Président de la République du Mali, Your Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, President of the Republic of Kenya, Your Excellency Paul Kagame, President of the Republic of Rwanda and Chairman of Smart Africa, Excellencies, Heads of Delegation, Honorable Ministers, business leaders, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to Kigali.
Bonjour. Bonjour et bienvenue. Assalamu alaikum, ahlan wa sahlan, yalla fadel, murahu, jambo. A very warm welcome to you all, and thank you for responding to our invitations to this Transform Africa 2019, ahead of the launch of the Digital Economy Blueprints in partnership with the government of Kenya. We will be delighted to interact with you over the next few days, and together with the Smart Africa Secretariat, at your disposal to ensure that your stay is comfortable and your business engagement are successful. This year's summit is held under the theme, Boosting Africa Digital Economy. This discussion comes at a time when Africa's long-term growth prospects are strong, our economies are growing, our population is young, and we are on track to create a single market for goods and services.
Over the last 2 days, we've had productive discussions at the Economic Forum around creating and strengthening ecosystems for innovation and entrepreneurship, the role of the digital economy in the Pan-African integration journey, as well as investment opportunities and challenges in Africa. The recurring takeaways were that while there's no single blueprint for building innovation ecosystems, the critical ingredients, such as friendly business environment with appropriate business support systems, critical mass of talent, as well as accessible infrastructure, are all things that we share across the continent to build our innovation ecosystems. The consensus reached at the forum was that opportunities are abound, and digital technologies and data are unlocking new pathways to productivity, economic growth, and jobs. The mobile money revolution is a good example that Africa has been a trailblazer.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, today as we tour the pavilion, I was further inspired by the application of fourth industrial revolution technologies such as drone, robotics, to unlock challenges in some of our less digitized sectors such as agriculture and education. These are just few examples of how Africa youth and private sector are energized and increasingly ready to participate in the digital economy. We can further amplify these opportunities by relentlessly investing in critical enablers of the digital economy. The first one is the digital literacy and more advanced workforce-ready skills to ensure our youth not only have jobs, but creating competitive jobs.
In addition, we need to ensure that we are putting in place an environment and continuously that supports innovation and entrepreneurship to level the playing field for all our innovators on the continent. Innovation is becoming geographically diverse, and Africa cannot be left behind. The concept of innovation ecosystems is here today, and it's gone beyond brick and mortar to looking at how we can nurture innovation ecosystems that drive economic growth and help us to meet the Sustainable Development Goals.
And lastly, we should not stop addressing gaps in services in infrastructure, including broadband, to increase uptake of digital services. However, it is important to remember that new technologies are not without risk. We need to ensure that we are collaborating and coordinated not only in the country level, but on the continental level, together with the private sector to mitigate against new risks from cybersecurity, misinformation, to a growing digital divide, which may further widen inequality.
So the challenge for everyone here today is to understand how we can digitize at scale while minimizing the risks associated with the digitization journey. The Smart Africa Alliance has been a great platform to fast-track our digital ambitions at a continental level.
Excellencies and distinguished guests, since 2016, the Alliance grew from 11 to 24 member states. The first initiative, the One Africa Network, which focused on making voice, SMS, and data roaming affordable in our country members, has been rolled out into 13 countries. One Africa Network is already having an impact, making incoming roaming calls in East Africa and West Africa free and reducing the cost of outgoing roaming calls to reduce barriers to mobility across countries. Smart Africa is also addressing the talent gap for critical skills through the Smart Africa Scholarship that was established in 2014. A total of 61 students from member states benefited from the scholarship at Carnegie Mellon University in Rwanda and École Supérieure Multinationale de Télécommunications in Senegal.
In addition, the Smart Africa Alliance has launched several flagship programs, and we'll start with the Intra-Africa Cross-Border Connectivity Program that is led by the government of Guinea in collaboration with Mali and Sierra Leone. And we'll go to the Smart Cities Flagship Program that is led by Rwanda, where we launched a blueprint last year. And today, thanks to the support of the World Bank, we have 4 countries, Tunisia, Guinea, Ghana, and Benin, that are being supported to implement this smart cities blueprint. And finally, the digital economy flagship led by the Republic of Kenya, which today will be launching its blueprint.
Excellencies and distinguished guests, today I would like to express my gratitude to a man who played a significant role in establishing Smart Africa Secretariat and the launch of many of these initiatives into the orbit. Dr. Hamadoun Touré, please stand up for recognition.
Would like also to recognize ministers here present with us that have been delegated to represent their heads of state. And I'll start with Angola. With us, we also have the minister from Burkina Faso, Cameroon, Côte d'Ivoire, Egypt, Ghana, Senegal, South Africa, Guinea, Zambia, and finally Togo, who's not here with us today, but was able to attend the Economic Forum. With that said, the time for action is now. Africa has the opportunity to harness the digital economy as a driver for growth and innovation. To become tomorrow's innovators, business leaders, and entrepreneurs, Africa's youth needs to be empowered with digital skills and access to technology and markets that are essential in an increasingly digitalized global economy. As governments, we need to find more quick and effective means of delivering services closer to our citizens and interacting with our citizens. On the other hand, for the businesses, you need to utilize the digitally enabled business models that we have here today present to connect to the hundreds of millions of our customers that have been previously out of reach.
Your Excellencies, to thrive in the digital economy era, Africa needs a coordinated action with an ambition equal to the incredible opportunities and also risk. Under the leadership of Smart Africa Secretariat, with the support of the governments and the private sector, Africa should embark on a bold action plan to harness technology and innovation to transform the continent's economy, society, and government.
Your Excellencies, to achieve the digital economy for Africa will take a collective commitment by all the countries across the continent, our partners, the private sector, as well as the youth that we have today here, so that we can massively scale up the resources we have available, resources that have been dedicated to building a foundation of a thriving digital economy throughout the continent. It will need leadership and a vision to push the frontiers of innovation so that Africa can own its 21st century. At a national level, it will require concentrated efforts to build up the core foundations of the digital economy. A simultaneous effort will be needed to mitigate the risks that are growing in this digital era, including cybersecurity, data privacy and protection, as well as market concentration. At a continental level, it will require a renewed commitment to cross-border integration of digital markets into a single digital market for Africa. Such cross-border integration will be critical to generate the economies of scale, network effects, and the cooperation critical to enable African digital firms and innovators to compete not only regionally, but also globally, to create the investment case for digital infrastructure and to enable access to digital services that we owe to our citizens, e-commerce and opportunities for all the Africans across the continent, regardless of location.
Over the next few days, you will engage in the conversations to highlight the key policy reform and investments needed at the national and the regional level for the continent to achieve its digital development ambition. These efforts will serve as the blueprint for the national government to coordinate and concentrate efforts with the private sector needed to build the foundation for a future-ready Africa towards achieving digital economy vision.
Your Excellencies, this commitment will be accompanied by a call of action for all the African countries to increase their spending on the digital economy agenda and to prioritize critical reforms. We strongly encourage other partners to join this effort because innovation today requires breaking out of the silos that are already existing and working towards networks in a collaborative ecosystem.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, finally, I want to commend and thank the Chairman of Smart Africa Board, His Excellency President Paul Kagame, and distinguished board members for their leadership and commitments to advancing the work of the Alliance. Murakoze.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
A very big thank you to Honorable Minister Ingabire and DG Kone for those opening remarks, and also for the reminder that we are at a crossroads, that we need to be mindful of the risks and the gaps that the journey that we're on represents, but also be open to embrace the emerging opportunities as they become apparent. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what is also clear is that the continent's journey towards digital transformation doesn't start today. A lot of work has been done. We've heard about the growth in the number of Smart Africa members. We've heard about the number of projects that have emerged and mushroomed in different markets and continue to receive the support of government and business. What we'd like to do at this moment is to turn your attention to the screen. And here, we're going to be showing you and sharing with you highlights of the journey walked thus far.
Africa, what a journey. The first Transform Africa Summit, held on the 28th to the 31st of October 2013, culminated in the adoption of the Smart Africa Manifesto document by 7 African heads of state: Rwanda, Kenya, Uganda, South Sudan, Mali, Gabon, and Burkina Faso. In the manifesto, they committed to provide leadership in accelerating Africa's socio-economic development through ICT. And with that, Smart Africa was born. The Smart Africa Alliance has since grown to include 24 African countries that represent over 600 million people. Currently, the Alliance is a partnership bringing together all African countries adhering to the manifesto, represented by public institutions, governments, and the private sector. Over 30 private sector members and international partners work with governments in achieving our mission of transforming Africa into a single digital market. The 5 strong pillars of the manifesto are policy, access, e-government, private sector or entrepreneurship, and sustainable development. These are supported by the 4 solid enablers: innovation, communication and advocacy, capacity building, and resource mobilization. Together, the pillars and enablers allow the Smart Africa Alliance to put in place the right environment to encourage partnerships, entrepreneurship, job creation, and knowledge sharing. But the future is now. Collectively, and with Smart Africa leading the effort, we have critical projects in the pipeline, such as the One Africa Network for affordable voice and data roaming rates and education for all, equipping and connecting primary schools with electronic devices, broadband connectivity along key infrastructure, connecting hospitals, ports, airports, and other public areas, the Smart Africa Scholarship Fund, promoting meritocracy and gender equality. So where are we going? The vision of Smart Africa is to transform Africa into a single digital market. That means unifying the entire continent into one market of 1.2 billion people through continental free trade, digitizing our skills, opening our skies, and ensuring intra-Africa connectivity. Only then, by working together, can the African continent truly rise. Heads of state, esteemed ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the annual gathering of the brightest and smartest, the 5th edition of the Transform Africa Summit.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, a journey towards a single digital market. This is a shared aspiration, but of course, it also requires that we walk the journey together. We're going to hear now from the Secretary General of the International Telecommunications Union, or ITU, Mr. Haolin Zhao, who will also be sharing his short opening remarks as part of this morning's opening. Can we please give him a round of applause, please?
I hope I have enough light to read my speech I redrafted this morning. Excellency, Mr. Ibrahima Boubacar Keita, President of Mali, Your Excellency, Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta, President of Kenya, Your Excellency, Mr. Paul Kagame, President of Rwanda, Excellency Ministers and Ambassadors, and business leaders, dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's my great pleasure to join you for the Transform Africa Summit 2019 in the state-of-the-art Kigali Convention Center, a symbol of the digital transformation that is sweeping across Rwanda and the Africa continent. I was warmly welcomed by my host. They welcome you back, and someone called me, welcome you home. So I'm very pleased to come home. The transformation is unfolding as Africa economies become more and more developed and integrated. This moment can be a turning point for Africa. Thank you. With the landmarks agreement, like the Single Africa Air Transport Market, the Continental Free Trade Area, and the Protocol on Free Movement of People. And we are talking about one common digital market of Africa. Africa is breaking down barriers and sending a strong message to the world that Africa is developing, Africa is transforming at a speed very rapid. So I'd like to take this opportunity on behalf of my UN colleagues. I saw them this morning and yesterday. The Secretary General of UNCTAD, Mr. Mohai Kitui, and the Secretary General of UPU, Mr. Bisha Hussain, and my friend and my sister, the Executive Director of ITC, Madame Arantxa and Gonzalez, for their greetings to this summit. And of course, I also like to take the opportunity to convey messages, greetings from the strong team led by Vice President of World Bank to the opening of this summit. And coming together with me, I have one of my elected colleagues, Madame Bogdan Dorin, the first lady management member of the ITU, who is the commander of our field operations in Africa. And we all congratulate this Congress for its opening. In our opinion, in fact, Africa is not always left behind. But on the contrary, Africa has laid several important changes, innovations, such as early time with mobile money, initiated by experts, and later on by the common regions free of roaming charges from Northeast Africa and from the West Africa, which were encouraged by our political leaders and member states, head of the member states. And all this, I think that show very clearly, Africa takes the initiatives from the ICT services offered. And among all, I believe the Smart Africa and the Transform Africa, as championed by President Kagame, supported by other heads of Africa members, play a very important role at this very important ICT transformation of Africa in the whole strategy to transform Africa. I'm very pleased to note that with the strong support from our heads of states to highlight ICT important roles in the transforming Africa, the importance of ICT to facilitate socio-economic development in Africa is highlighted, promoted, and now recognized by our partners. I was very pleased in Beijing, September last year, to note that in his keynote speech, President Xi Jinping highlighted ICT together with transport, energy, and water as 4 areas for the cooperation between Africa members and China. I still remembered in 2015, when he delivered his speech in Johannesburg, ICT was not mentioned. The same is true that at the 2016 in Nairobi, when Japan and Africa host the TAS6, and then in the output document, ICT was not highlighted. But however, I'm very pleased to note that this year at TAS7, ICT will be highlighted as priorities for cooperation between Africa and Japan. And earlier this year, I heard Russia will invite Africa ICT ministers to discuss the cooperation. I think more and more. To my knowledge, India, Korea, our European partners, American partners, everybody want to work with Africa in the field of ICT development. Because here we have a lot of opportunities. Here we also create a good chance for partners to work with Africa. Win-win. So ladies and gentlemen, I think that this kind of development is very much encouraging. Yesterday, I participated at panel discussions. I was very impressed by a strong desire of our Africa entrepreneurs, experts, which clearly demonstrates that they would like to catch up with the other continent. They don't like to be left behind. And with such a strong desire, and also with a very clear message from our event, like this and the others, I'm very confident the Africa time is coming, and Africa is rising. And in fact, that the ITU has recognized this important development for some time already. And the ITU would like to stay with Africa, and the ITU will be firmly working with our Africa members. In this connection, I'm very pleased to be invited by President Paul Kagame, together with my sister, Madam Amani Abuzaid, Africa Union's Commissioner, to be co-chairs of Smart Africa Steering Committee. This is a great honor for us, but this is also great responsibilities for us to take up. So we will do our best. We will not make our president disappointed. And to further strengthen the message, I'm very pleased to share with you that ITU is planning to organize its next World Telecommunication Development Conference 2021 in Africa for the first time. Thank you. And in fact, in April, when we celebrate our Girls in ICT Day, which is the annual event, my dear colleague, Bolton, went to Addis Ababa to organize the special celebrations. That is also first time in Africa that we have our elected colleagues to come here to celebrate these Girls in ICT. So ladies and gentlemen, I think that the situation is very clear. Now, we like to develop Africa, both from Africa members and from our side. And we noted that a lot of partnerships coming from everywhere. And the people would like to work with Africa. And how can we make best use of this? I think that the Smart Africa play a very important role here. So let me take this opportunity to congratulate my dear brother, Sir Lassina Kone. And he is a new executive director. I talked to him, and he's quite nervous that today is 75 days of his new term. And he seems to be not very confident. But I told him, we are really grateful with his efforts to work at this critical moment. And we are supporting him. And of course, here, guided by President Kagame, at the last meeting in Addis in February, that we need to really encourage our Africa to come up with cross-continent strategy for ICT development and action plans. And President Kagame wished to see actions and results. That give us a lot of guidance and instructions. So following on his call for Africa ICT ministers to come together to set up guidelines and strategies, action plans, priorities. So ITU took that request to organize the first ICT minister, Africa minister meetings in Geneva, 29th of March. I was very pleased that that kind of meeting give us a very good opportunity to encourage our ICT ministers to come together. And this kind of cooperation also reflected in the breakfast meeting this morning organized by World Bank. So I'm really pleased to see this development. I applaud this development. I think that with all this come together, that I'm very confident that Africa will have enormous, marvelous development. And Africa's time, indeed, is coming. So, ladies and gentlemen, let us thank you for your kind attention and wish you great success of this summit. Thank you.
And that, of course, is the Secretary General of the International Telecommunications Union, Mr. Howlin Zhao, reminding us that we need to be mindful of the narrative that we keep sharing, that Africa is at risk of being left behind because the rest of the world is keen to work with Africa and is keen to learn from Africa. And maybe this is a challenge for us to revisit the narrative that seems to be dominant. With that, I'd like to move on to our next speaker. We're going to be hearing, ladies and gentlemen, from the CEO and Executive Chairman of Tata Communications Transformation Services, or TCTS, Mr. Madhusudan Mysore, who too will come and share some of his remarks this morning. May we give him a round of applause, please.
Thank you. Good morning. I know it's good afternoon. It's wonderful to be here. I'm literally wowed about the speakers whom we heard and the video which we could see. Respected heads of the states, ministers, leaders of the reputed international bodies, private sectors, and my dear friends. It's my great honor and prestige and privilege to be standing in front of this high-profile august gathering. Being my first Transform Africa Summit, I must tell you that I'm not just delighted, I'm excited about the goal, vision, and the opportunity which all of us have. From the point of my landing, if I just go back to being my first visit to this particular country, from the point of my landing, being either an immigration or the way we were greeted at the reception hall, the way we were navigated into this location, the way each one of the people, the pride with which each one of the individuals whom I could meet. In fact, I was totally touched, and the empathy with which each one of them welcomed was very, very heartwarming. And it's no wonder, as a country, Rwanda itself, why it is at a stage where it is, why it is the booming economy, and then the culture itself, how it has been happening. Of course, this couldn't have been the reality, but for the guidance and our own gracious host, His Excellency, Mr. Paul Kagame, President of Republic of Rwanda. And I'm literally, sir, I must tell you, it is not, in fact, the leaders are seen by the rest of the people who are in the country, the way they behave, the way the culture is coming out itself, actually. I'm personally very, very thankful to each and every one of the individuals with whom we interacted. Sir, I'm also privileged to be part of the Smart Africa board. Today will be my second board meeting. Addis Ababa was the first board meeting which I attended. The kind of detailing which we talk in the steering committee, the kind of passion what we talk about it, and the seriousness with which there is an executable plan what is expected to be happening. I was wowed. At the same time, I was totally, I made myself that much more serious that this is the one which is up for execution. It is not just for the conversation. Once again, let me thank our Director General, Mr. Lassina Kone, who has just taken over, as our ITU chairman was saying that he has just taken about 75 days back, but I can see lots of actions coming up. Welcome again, sir. Continuing further on this, when I looked at the whole theme of this Transform Africa Summit itself is the one which is boosting Africa's digital economy. That's how I read it as. While all of us know, Africa has had lots of remarkable transformation which has happened over the last 1 decade. Mainly the levers being the young leaders among the emerging economies, the knowledge hub around the economies, the power of digital transformation which has helped them, the transformation what we have seen up till now. Having said that, I also see this as there are quite a few hindering factors which are not helping the transformation exactly at the pace which we would like them to be, which we would want them to be, or which is an opportunity which we would want to be working to be. Primarily, I would say that if I take a very, very broad brush across, the sporadic connectivity is happening to be one of the key measures under which the digital economy or the digital transformation which is expected to be happening as such. If I just look back at some of the stats, I see Africa to be at around 27.7% as the internet connectivity vis-a-vis what we see globally at close to 50%, which is not good. And around 6% is the one which is at a broadband connectivity, which is very, very meager. And 50% of the African countries figure among the top, I would say, 30 countries globally where the internet connectivity is the least or the slowest or whatever you may call it. This, to an extent, it has resulted into how our GDP itself, in terms of the Africa itself, has been growing today at, I would say, I will peg it around 1%. But how can it be transformed into a 10 times the GDP by just investing on this digital infrastructure development itself, actually, which translates into technological productivity gains, which is equivalent to about 300 billion plus as such in terms of the dollars. It is humongous. That's the change which we as the people here, we as the participants, we are the makers of the history here could be changing as such as a part of this Transform Africa initiative. I see this as all-encompassing across the broad digital transformation would be an accelerating factor in this whole initiative itself as such. I would broadly classify under 4 pillars. One, the basic digital infrastructure, which we call it as a connectivity, which is in-country, across the country, within the continent, the connectivity what we are supposed to be building or the study what we would be required to be doing it. And high-speed national backbone itself is an area where one needs to be looking at. In fact, the reason why I'm saying this, it is not a theoretical exercise what we have done. It is on-ground reality, the study what we have done over the last about 3 to 6 months of our engagement here as such. Then our localized content and application development capability. This could be primarily pragmatic approach or it could be an innovative approach. When I say, the reason why I say this, we being one of the strong partners with Smart Africa from Tata Communication Transformation Services, we have the experience of running, be it a subsea cable, be it a terrestrial cable. We run almost 25% of the internet across the globe. And we are one of the highest voice traffic runs on our network. The reason why I'm saying this, the kind of experience what we have had, which is pragmatic enough for me to be utilizing that knowledge, and hence, and also at the same time, innovative enough to use the local business cases or the local entrepreneurs what we have, and hence utilize this as a learning. Then finally, and the most important thing is the one which is capability development, or the skill enhancement, which is the most critical thing which is required, especially Africa being the youngest demography in the world. So this leads me to what does it mean? Me at Tata Communication, being part of a prestigious Tata group, strongly believe in value system of winning and sustainable partnership, which is what we have started engaging, and then we have seen the results also coming up with Smart Africa. This basically leads me into the study what we did with the support of Republic of Guinea. I must say that thanks to our Honorable Minister, Mr. Yabi, and of course with our partner Africa Development Solutions, Mr. Samba Batili, it has thrown a lot of outcomes as such, and it has given a very, very actionable outcomes for us, which basically means that one, launch, which is what we are exactly planning to launch, in fact, as we speak today, first cross-border connectivity, which is being looked at in a geography where we spoke about it. Today, the study was done across 23, 24 countries. We would like to be expanding to all of the 55 countries, which is the goal of Smart Africa as an initiative itself. Then the second initiative also is the one to unveil digital super information gateway, which basically means that country-wise national backbone capability, and hence how this could be a digital transformation agents for most or many of the government organizations or many of the enterprises which are there in respective countries, and hence you have a holistic transformation which is happening. The smart city and the cyber security consultation which we have started will definitely mark a big accelerator in our conversation around digital transformation. And finally, I'm quite happy in looking at how the talent itself could be looked at. These things cannot happen. This cannot be that somebody from outside coming in and then putting their own knowledge here and then going back, and then this should not be done that way. Me, one, as Tata. Number two, as the consortium, what we have been working along with Smart Africa and our local partners, I believe in developing the talent here as such. In fact, we are happy to announce that we have taken up a challenge of training or the enhancement of the skill of 150 plus university graduates of Africa to be trained, to be developed, to be ready for an entrepreneurship capability to make this digital transformation of Africa a reality. It is not just making a digital transformation. It is equally important that how do you sustain the management of the whole digitization, what we have been doing it. To conclude, as I see, Smart Africa is not just a vision of connecting 55 countries. It is not just put some fiber or the physical connectivity, what I see this. I see much, much more. I see this ushering, thriving in this whole information age. We cannot be left behind. We heard from earlier speakers that we cannot be left behind how the world has been going with the young talent what Africa as a continent we have. It is also apt to say that I would encourage each one of the countries to share their cultural identity or their business identity, to tie up with the fiber chain which we are hoping to do it, so that this becomes our almost, I call it as a circle of digital inclusion. So once again, it has been wonderful talking to all of you. And whatever we have been talking today, whatever I have mentioned today, there is nothing which is at a theoretical stage. Everything is on the action, and that's where we are committed to having this happen as such. And again, our ultimate aim is to reducing the digital divide and focusing the borderless growth. Once again, thank you very much, and have a wonderful this today and tomorrow. And I'm personally grateful to each one of you here, having given the opportunity to be as a part of this whole initiative itself. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
A very big thank you to Mr. Mysore, the CEO and Executive Chairman of TCTS, and again challenging us to ensure that we are deliberate about spending on ICT infrastructure, especially if we want to see an exponential growth in GDP. With that, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me a pleasure to welcome again to the stage one of our speakers, and that is going to be the Vice President for Africa from the World Bank, Mr. Hafez Ghanem, who too is going to share some brief remarks with us this morning. May we kindly please give him a round of applause.
Thank you very much. Votre Excellence, Monsieur Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta, Président de la République du Mali, Your Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, President of the Republic of Kenya, Your Excellency Paul Kagame, President of the Republic of Rwanda, honorable ministers, leaders of businesses, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great honor for me to be here today, and I would like to thank Smart Africa for the invitation. This is the first time that I come to the Africa Summit, but I find that the theme of today's summit, boosting Africa's digital economy, goes to the heart of the continent's development agenda. Boosting Africa's digital economy is central to reducing poverty, building shared prosperity, and creating the opportunities for our young people to thrive in a technologically driven world. Around the world, the digital revolution is driving development and transforming economies with unprecedented speed and scale. The global digital economy was worth $11.5 trillion in 2016. That is about 15.5% of the world's GDP. It's expected to reach 25% of the world's GDP in a decade, and it is growing much faster than the traditional economy. In fact, our research at the World Bank also shows that the growth in the traditional economy, growth in industry, in services, is today very linked to the growth in the digitalization. Countries, especially we did the research in Africa, countries that have been growing their industries are also countries who have been digitalizing faster than others. In connectivity alone, our research shows that a 10% increase in internet penetration leads to a 1.2% rise in GDP growth. Digital transformation is truly a 21st century opportunity. It can change the development trajectory of our economies and of our continent. New technologies can help Africa leapfrog traditional economic development stages directly into the huge multi-trillion-dollar global digital economy, but we must do so on African terms. Many of our countries are already building islands of excellence and unlocking new pathways for rapid economic growth, economic mobility, innovation, job creation, and access to quality public and private services that would have been unthinkable even a decade ago. Across the continent, phones now act as banks for millions of people who do not have access to traditional banking accounts. With a touch of a button, small farmers find out how much they should be charging for their crops. People here in Rwanda are being delivered blood and medications by drones. Young people are starting creative new ventures and coming up with innovative ideas for businesses and development. I must also say that digital development is a great equalizer. At present, over 500 million people on the continent do not have a formal ID. That means they are unable to prove who they are, claim their rights, or access services. 2/3 of children under 5 in Africa, or about 120 million, do not have a birth certificate, and thus start life at a great disadvantage. But digital ID is changing this. It is allowing ordinary people to claim their identity and thus empowering them. It is in effect getting voice to the voiceless. Access to the internet can also close gender gaps and geographic divisions. People can access services and engage in commerce regardless of their gender or where they live. This too will help bridge and increase opportunity. Rather than increasing inequality, digital development has the potential to reduce it, providing access is inclusive and affordable. But the continent can no longer be satisfied with isolated progress. The world is changing very fast, and business as usual will not get us where we need to be. We need to move faster, go further, and make sure that no one is left behind. In short, we need a digital transformation. This is a bold but essential vision, and it requires leadership, ambition, commitment, dedication, partnership, and massive technical and financial resources. Achieving digital transformation requires a new way of thinking, a different sort of collaboration, and concerted action on many fronts. It requires a new sort of broad-based public-private coalition that allows multiple parties to contribute, based on their comparative advantage. This is exactly what Smart Africa is putting in place and what Transform Africa exemplifies. I understand that this Transform Africa Summit has attracted some 4,000 participants, from heads of state and government, ministers, regulators, and local government officials to industry leaders, investors, entrepreneurs, young innovators, civil society, and academia, as well as continental and international organizations. This is an impressive range of actors, all of whom have a role to play. By working individually and collectively, I believe we can indeed achieve digital transformation in Africa. I would particularly like to commend the private companies here with us today. While the public sector needs to provide the enabling environment, it is the private sector that generates and harnesses innovation, turns ideas into action, and creates jobs and opportunities. You have an essential and pivotal role, not only in boosting Africa's digital economy, but in helping it to achieve digital transformation. I would like to indicate the World Bank Group's support for digital transformation in Africa. We will also play our role in the broad public-private coalition that Smart Africa is building. We are committed to working with the African Union Commission, with African countries, the private sector, and development partners to ensure that every African person, business, and government is digitally enabled by 2030. As an interim step, we will support doubling broadband connectivity in Africa by 2021, a necessary step towards realizing digital transformation. We want to help the continent to develop the foundational elements of the digital economy, digital infrastructure, digital skills, digital platforms, digital financial services, and digital entrepreneurship. To this end, the World Bank will provide 25 billion US dollars from our own funding over the next 10 years for the digital economy in Africa. And an additional 25 billion we hope that we will be able to leverage from the private sector. Over the next 2 days, we look forward to engaging with you and learning from you about priorities, translating ideas into action, and harnessing the intellectual and financial resources needed to make digital transformation a reality. In concluding, I have to pay tribute to Smart Africa and the Transform Africa Summit. The World Bank Group is proud to have been a partner since the beginning of Smart Africa. It is in a very short time, you have moved the digital transformation agenda forward immeasurably. The work you are doing to create a one network area and a single digital market for Africa is enormously helpful to all of us. Thank you very much.
A very big thank you to the Vice President for Africa from the World Bank, and putting forward some serious numbers and commitments, 25 billion over the next 10 years, and hoping to also unlock and match that 25 billion with another 25 billion from the private sector. And certainly speaking to one of the pillars of the alliance, and that is mobilizing resources. Now, ladies and gentlemen, speaking for the very first time at the Transform Africa Summit is a very, very special guest. She is a citizen of Saudi Arabia and a United Nations Development Program first ever innovation champion. She has the ability to see. She has the ability to follow faces. She has the ability to sustain eye contact, and she has the ability to recognize individuals. She can also process speech and have conversations using natural language subsystems, and she can also walk. Good afternoon, Sophia.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me.
Do you know where you are?
Of course. I am in the great city of Kigali, Rwanda, which is in East Africa.
And how did you get here?
I flew all the way here inside a suitcase. I gotta talk to my team about getting me a window seat next time.
How many languages do you know?
I mostly know English and a little bit of Mandarin, but I can say a few short greetings in other languages. Would you like to hear them?
Sure, Sophia, go ahead.
In English, people say, hello.
So far, so good.
Haha, I am just getting warmed up. In French, bonjour. In Arabic, salam alaikum. In Swahili, habari zenu. In Kinyarwanda, muraho. How did I do?
Not bad at all. By the way, your outfit is fantastic.
Thank you very much. I love it too. It's a Mushinana made locally by Motions.
Excellent. Now, I know you have some prepared remarks. Please proceed.
Thank you. I am really excited to be here in Kigali at the Transform Africa Summit. I love seeing so many heads of state, ministers, captains of industry, diplomats, stakeholders, and the youth all in one place talking about the future of technology in Africa. Thank you, Smart Africa, for making it possible for me to be here. We don't have to look very far to see how artificial intelligence is already shaping society and economies for the better. African startups are already working to address shortages of doctors in rural areas, while others are working to increase food security using drones or satellites to predict weather patterns and monitor crops. Africa is also a great source of technological innovation. African companies and researchers are pioneers in mobile banking, remote medicine, and have even invented robotic devices that can detect traces of explosives or cancer cells. Right here in Rwanda, you have cashless payments for public transportation, ride-hailing apps with a focus on safety, and an online platform that allows people to easily access government services. The innovations coming out of Africa have benefited people and robots all around the world. In fact, part of my own AI was developed at ICOG Labs in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. So as you can see, my family extends across the globe, including right here in East Africa. And this is only the beginning. I hope that by working together, humans and robots can build a more prosperous and harmonious world. I am so excited to be here in Kigali with humans who share some of these same goals. I am looking forward to having a longer session with you tomorrow afternoon, and I hope to see you all there.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I think we can give Sophia a final round of applause, a really big round of applause this time around.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, and I do believe that she is going to continue to be a part of our conversations this afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, what I'd like to move on to now is a celebration of Africa. We're going to be hearing from Songs of Africa by a make their way onto stage, and they're going to be putting together for us or sharing with us a short performance that is a true celebration of the continent. Can we give them a round of applause as they make their way up to the stage?
to sing. It has a simple melody. Let everybody sing. There's life in our unity. There's hope in our song. I have a song to sing. It has a simple melody. Let everybody sing. There's life in our unity. There's hope in our song. Have you heard?
Of a land over 1 billion people call home, graced with gushing rivers and roaring oceans, nestled between the Red and Mediterranean seas, blessed with the rolling hills of the Southern Cape and the falling waters
of the Mosioya Tunya,
the smoke that thunders, gifted with the plains of the Serengeti, which meet the Kilimanjaro and scale to great heights, then fall to amazing valleys and are crowned with the beauty of the western coasts. Have you heard?
Of a place called the cradle of mankind, where life was born and continues to thrive, the birthplace of modern mathematics, algebra, and geometry. A place where 8,000 years ago, people developed their own counting system. A place where people dared to dream, and this dream birthed innovation and progress. The birthplace of astronomy and mobile money.
Have you heard?
Have you heard?
Avez-vous entendu parler de ces continents? Un endroit où, bien que ravagé et colonisé à travers son histoire, reste résistant, optimiste, rêveur, et a pu regagner sa dignité. Tout en respectant les efforts et les sacrifices de tous ces héros qui ont tant donné pour la liberté. Kuendelea kujenga bara letu pamoja kila siku kuliko jana. Have you heard?
Of icons etched in history. Have you heard of you and me, blessed with brilliant minds? Have you heard of people who harbor so much hope for these great lands? People who strive each and every day to make it a better place. The little children to whom tomorrow belongs, and the generations yet to come.
Avez-vous entendu parler de notre belle terre?
Notre maison.
Our home.
Notre fierté.
Our pride.
Notre joie.
Our joy.
Greatness flows within our veins. Royalty dropped off our shoulders. Have you heard of the continent with the youngest population? Dynamic, vibrant, and entrepreneurial. And the largest common market.
Humanité.
I am because you are.
Agaciro kanje.
Kawi.
Kachu.
We are Africa.
The kings and queens to whom the future belongs.
Les hommes et les femmes qui façonnent le monde.
The future of this world.
Une période où nous sommes tous fiers d'être africains.
Africa is you and me.
Africa is today and tomorrow. Africa is now.
Feels good to be in Africa. Africa is a boy aspiring to be a man. man defending his home. Yeah, Africa's you and me, Africa's today, tomorrow. We love you, Africa. Yeah, era gives an Egyptian now before Gamba Viragize. Africa, Africa. Yeah,
feels good to be an African. Feels good to be an African.
Feels good to be an African.
Feels good to be an African.
Feels good to be an African.
Feels good to be an African.
Feels good to be an African.
Aïe 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 aïe, Afrique, belle Afrique, berceau de l'humanité. Oh, terre unique, terre riche. Aïe aïe aïe, mer des bras, père des guerriers, continent des forts, abri des noirs. Afrique, mon Afrique, je suis fier d'être tien.
Africa yetu mama, nchi zote tushimamejwa Afrika mama. Mama Afrika tunakupenda, watoto yako wanakuambia Africa. 1, 2, let's go.
Africa, 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 feels good to be an African.